Mic check, mic check. Is this thing on? Happy Friday, everybody. Hopefully, you are winding this thing down. Hopefully, it is not too crazy of a week for you. Hopefully, you got a chance to stop out at Home Depot. Shout out to Home Depot, rocking the great news this week. No longer tested, even though they are the big corporation as far as their employees go. We got Randy in the house. Thanks for dropping by, Randy. Appreciate you as always, sir. Appreciate everybody else who's going to be popping in and out as we go. Again, this thing wouldn't be possible without you guys. Super appreciative of everybody. Looking forward to seeing as many folks as possible come next month. We are 1 month away, folks, from the March to the Capitol down in Madison. Looking forward to it. It's going to be electric. We got Heather in the house. Go Badgers. Let's go. Let's get it. Also, got to give a quick shout out to my Yankees are playing my great aunt's Cardinals. I love you, Aunt Jean. She's probably not watching. Love you, Aunt Jean, but go Yankees, go. We got playoff hopes on the line. It's a long story. Big Yankee fan. Still appreciate the Brewers. We're good there. Before we get rolling, I always like to give a quick shout out to the folks who make things here at the podcast possible. Obviously, the big one would be the movement, Let's Legalize Wisconsin, which all you are a part of. Obviously, that's our typical day-to-day that we are handling business with. And shout out to them. Also, shout out to Higher Love. If you're anywhere near the UP, please make sure you check them out. They've got the best products across the board. You've got the 15% off promo code. Makes things very nice on the pocketbook. So, much love to them. And the deli style flower, you cannot beat that, folks. I'm telling you, deli style is amazing. Smell it before you buy it. Also, a huge shout out to Ignite Dispensary. Just got a chance to try again their wrestling. I call them the wrestlers. When my wife is in the fridge, I was like, hey, we still got wrestlers left. Those guys are awesome. I gotta get a picture of those up here. I'll have them on the next show. So you guys can check it out. They always do a great job with the can work as far as design and the product. We got Lisa in the house. She says hi. She says happy Labor Day, everybody. Thanks for stopping out, Lisa. Jill's here as well. So everything is well. We've got the OGs here. So appreciate everybody swinging by. Today's news, we got some interesting stuff popping off out there. Again, just want to give, it's not too often we get to give big kudos to things happening out there. It's been a little funky, especially in Wisconsin with the politicians being out of session, not working on anything because they're just on vacation. So we've been covering more across the U.S. type stuff. But also, again, I want to touch base. Huge shout out to Home Depot for standing up for its workers and freeing them of testing for cannabis use when it comes to simple jobs, simple accidents, that kind of stuff. Again, the testing and how that works as far as staying in your system so long, that should not stop people from being able to have a job. So much love again to Home Depot, not endorsed by them or anything, but that's a pretty big corporation. So hopefully we see some of that shifting out there. Let's kick it off, guys. We got some news articles here to go over. Hopefully everyone's got a great weekend planned. Coming up, we've got the Labor Day. If anybody's traveling, be safe. Check them headlights. If you are making a run, that kind of stuff, you know the deal. We got Jason in the house. What's going on, my man? Thanks for swinging by. Jason does his radio. You got a link for that in here, Jason? We can plug that in here. This article definitely caught my eye. This is from The Atlantic. The title of it is Cannabis is Too Strong Now. Again, we like to just cover topics. So this headline that we're sharing does not mean that is my stance. That is just the article that we're diving into. Thought it'd be interesting to see what this all entails out there in the world of journalism. So let's see what we've got here. Again, this is from The Atlantic. Heather's headed to leaving for KC in Colorado on Wednesday. All right. Heather's going to be enjoying some nice time away from this lovely state and hitting up some legal shops. So that'll be nice. We've got, so this gentleman starts out, looks like his name is, it doesn't say his name yet. We'll catch it at the bottom, I'm sure. A strange thing has happened on the path of legalization. Users across all ages and experience levels are noticing that a drug they once turned to for fun and relaxation now triggers existential dread and paranoia. Yeah, unfortunately, this is kind of going how I was afraid it might. Here's a quote. The density of the nugs is crazy. They're so sticky. A friend from college texted me recently, he says. I soloed a joint from the dispensary recently. It was tweaking, just walking around, end of quote. Interesting. That in 2022, the federal government reported that in samples seized by the DEA, average levels of THC had more than tripled compared to 25 years earlier, from 5 to 16%. Oh, goodness. For the average smoker who wants to take a few hits without getting absolutely blitzed, this is frustrating. For some, it can be dangerous. Okay. This would be dangerous if you're not engaging with the people you are buying from in a dispensary. There are more potent products. There are less potent products. You can get CBD flower, which would have no THC. Like, you know what I mean? Like this, I can see where he's going with this. And unfortunately, this is where I was afraid he was going to go. And this is just bad education. This is bad. This is a bad take. We're going to read a little more of it before we correct him on it all, I guess. WildDogsRadio.com. That's what it is. Shows every Wednesday night from 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Wisconsin time, called Grunge Heaven with DJ Wired. Haven. I always mess that up. Yeah, Home Depot is definitely getting it on, and so is things over at Wild Dogs Radio. Make sure you check that out. So it says over here, for some, it can be dangerous. In the past few years, reports have swelled of people, especially teens, experiencing short and long-term cannabis-induced psychosis with consequences including hospitalizations for chronic vomiting and auditory hallucinations of talking birds. It's entirely possible that this new kind of cannabis, which is very strong, using these very intensive patterns, could do permanent brain damage to teenagers because that's when the brain is developing a lot. Okay, so we do not recommend that children use cannabis. That is whether it is legal in your state, whether you buy it from friends in your state, you grow it yourself in your state, or you go to the dispensary in your state. No different than alcohol. And I would even say, like if it was my child, I would probably be holding back till like the age of 25 or so until there's a little more research. It does sound like while your brain is still developing, it could have some adverse effects. But that's just my personal take on what I would tell my child or what I expect my child to do. But no matter what we do, this could be a thing with cannabis, whether we're legal, illegal, black market, dispensary, online, whatever, right? Kids can get into anything. Kids can find anything. It's not good for kids to get their hands on stuff they should not. We can all agree on that, right? That part of this article I would agree with, but that has nothing to do with how potent the product is. And the reason I say that, okay, we have a plant just like corn or bananas. I remember learning that like bananas and corn used to be really small. But as farmers evolve and the understanding of the plant evolves, and we know that they need this much water and that much water, or this kind of fertilizer helps with that. There's like, yeah, it's going to get more potent. But that's just like, as much as I don't like alcohol, I don't think we should have to ban anything that's 100 proof or more. Do I ever think there's a use for it? No. But I understand people who want to use it and for the reason they use it in, like doing shots and whatever. But again, be responsible. But I know kids should be ingesting vodka. No kid should be ingesting some of the best green out there. Like that's just common sense. So this article, we'll see where he goes here a little more. But right now, it is very frustrating what we are reading so far. Looks like Jason says 100% true, brain develop until age 25 or so. Okay, I thought I read that somewhere. They all use, not drink. One of the basic premises of legalization movement, so now they're going to try calling us out over here, is that cannabis, if not harmless, is pretty close to it, arguably much less dangerous than alcohol. So he's mocking us right there. My head's a little crooked. But much of the weed being sold today is not the same stuff that people were getting locked up for selling in the 1990s and the 2000s. You don't have to be a war on drugs apologist to be worried about the consequences of unleashing so much super high potency weed into the world. The high that most adult weed smokers remember from their teenage years is most likely one produced by mids, as in the middle tier weed. In the pre-legalization area, unless you had a connection with access to top shelf strains, shout out to the top floor at UW Stout, that's where our hookup was, you probably had to settle for mids or one step down. Reggie. Today, mids are hard to come by. Simplest explanation is that the casual smoker who pinned for the mids and reggies of their youth aren't the industry's top consumers. Serious stoners are. According to research, industry is not shy about the fact. In May, I attended a convention where investors used the terms high quality and potent almost interchangeably. Okay, guy, we get where you're going here. This guy is he's playing on a narrative that is simply just a evolution or a fact. Like, again, nobody says you should, no matter what the potency is, kids are going to take it until, like they should not have their hands on it. Okay, but they're not going to just try a little bit and then be like, oh, like it just can't fix that. Can't stop kids from getting their hands on it. I get where he's coming from, but this is not anything of use as far as, in my opinion, a battle or a stance that somebody should be standing a leg on as far as whether something should be legally obtained or just continue to be obtained from the black market. Wow, this article is pretty long. So we're going to kind of just not give him any more of our time and go with this guy is trying to paint a picture, but it's a pretty slanted picture, in my opinion. Jill says, I know a few that drink and do cannabis. They should be considered minors until 25. That seems pretty fair. Jason says, terpenes are the best way of myself knowing how potent the cannabis is, but as of late, I never see the terpenes on what I buy. I would say I see that a lot as well, unfortunately. And I feel like, again, that's where maybe some of these people who are a part of the legalization effort or the cannabis council, like that's not something they're probably thinking of, like terpenes. That's where I feel like we need to have some people who are cannabis know-how people, part of the process to get this thing rolling, to understand that people should know what's in their product, the THC content, the terpene content, the CBD content. That should be like a nutrition label. It should be every package in the same spot, QR code, same spot, has to work. Like, it's pretty, even some legal states, when you can't get to that stuff. I had picked up some flour in Michigan not too long ago, and I remember there wasn't even a QR code to get to the COA to see, the specifics of it. And calling that dispensary to say, hey, how can I find the COA? And the manager who answered goes, what's a COA? Whoa, bro, like you're a legal dispensary, and to know that the COA is not part of your normal day-to-day lingo is kind of concerning. Actually, very concerning. So yeah. Peter says the same thing. Terps are what I chase, not the THC. I felt that, man. So this guy's article, I think, has got enough time. We got to watch out for folks like these, help educate them. And it's not a bad thing that potency is changing. There are still less potent products out there. But yes, if somebody's accessing this from the black market, it's probably going to be moonshine, not beer. You get what I'm saying? Like, if you're risking the biscuit and going black market, you're probably going to have some pretty good cannabis. You're not going to have CBD flower. So legalization should only help the case with this gentleman's concern, because it should be about education, and that should be the way that most people get their product. Jason says, yes, be a coupon cutter with cannabis and an ingredient reader. Michigan is where I get mine too. No terpenes red. Yeah. It should definitely be there, man. Felt that. All right, next article. Let's see what else we got cooking out there in the United States. Again, our politicians here in Wisco are on a little hiatus, taking a nice long break for a few months. So they're not working on too much over here in Wisconsin. Talking about Wisconsin and potential, maybe for like funding projects like our roadways or our schools, that kind of stuff, right? Illinois awards $35 million in cannabis tax revenue funded grants. Cannabis tax revenue grants to support their community reinvestment. Wisconsin. Everything I read is this project can't be done. There's not enough money. Not enough money. Yet the U.S. government just keeps printing money, and right. But regardless, we need more money to continue to be able to have nice things, to continue to improve things. And we're one of the few states that hasn't figured out yet. Instead of just letting sales go through their means through the streets and that kind of thing, we could be getting a fair tax on it. Again, I don't think there should have to be a tax, but we know there's got to be some kind of a tax. I think 10% or less is more than fair. See, Michigan, let's get some money back in our communities. Jill says Wisconsin is the lazy state. Jason says, wake up, Wisconsin. We're on the same page here, folks. Illinois officials announced on Thursday that they are awarding $35 million in grants to 88 local organizations. That's 88 organizations who probably, I'm going to guess, these 88 organizations, almost 100, that next week are going to be super excited for being able to do something that they otherwise wouldn't have been able to do, purchase, fund, build, grow, add on. Wouldn't have been possible if it weren't for cannabis. And I don't know why that's such a bad thing to say, because I feel like if this was in like a regular newspaper, this would be like hush, a lot more quiet, like we can't tell the kids that the money came from cannabis, or like, I get where you're coming from, but at the same time, if we're doing a good job of educating and not giving kids cannabis, I think we can let them know that it came from, you know what I mean? Like, let's be adults here. Let's help 88 organizations. 88 organizations using funds generated from taxes on adult use sales. So this isn't even medical, to support community reinvestment efforts. Wisconsin is an update at Mayberry, something like that, man. The funding is being offered through the state's Restore, Reinvest, Renew program that was established under Illinois' 2019 legalization law. It requires 25% of cannabis tax revenue. So that's 25% of the percentage they generate, because obviously 25% tax added onto purchases would be ridiculous, even though they're not far off there in Illinois. So 25% of all the money that is raised through taxes from legalization, 25% has to support areas most harmed by the disproportionate damage caused by the war on drugs. Shout out to Senator Agard. She's got something just like that in her bill. And this is according to the Illinois Criminal Justice Information Authority, the ICJIA. That sounds interesting. Still stuck in the 20 years ago. Yeah, they sure are. With like bricks tied to their feet and treading in water. Love you, bye. Love you too, man. And we got to talk on the phone, Jason, because I'm terrible at messages right now. And I think I saw you had messaged the page, and we get so many spam bots. I'm going to get you my cell phone number. That'll work better. Because I think we can collab on something, man. We got Illinois created the most equity-centric cannabis program in the nation, and the R3 program is a fundamental component of our state's legalization framework, coming from their governor. He signed the legalization into law, and he shared all this information via a press release. He's quoted here: by funding smaller community organizations in areas harmed by years of disinvestment and excessive incarceration, we are taking enormous strides toward justice and expanding opportunities for all. So it looks like since launching, Illinois has awarded over $244 million. $244 million in cannabis revenue funded grants to that end. It's only been 4 years, and they've raised $250 million. That's a lot of money, folks. That's a lot of money. For too long, communities have suffered from systematic injustice in criminal legal system and unfairly targets marginalized groups. I agree. Illinois' equity-focused cannabis reform is a key step in addressing these issues. The R3 program not only provides funding, but also empowers local organizations to create safer, stronger communities, giving every Illinoisan the chance to truly thrive. I mean, you're definitely creating some building blocks for people to add to their structure, some stepping stones for some businesses, some organizations. That's a lot of money, folks. That's a lot of money. Shout out to Illinois for getting 88 organizations taken care of. Looks like here in the last couple of days with these grants. That is awesome. And then also here we've got a quick update. Our friend down, let's not even joke around, guys. He is our enemy down in Florida. He is the Robin Voss of Florida as far as his tactics of being a Republican and being very loudly, cannabis is going to end the world opponent of cannabis. So we always got to keep tabs on him because there's also talks about him possibly being vice president before the gentleman that Trump picked was announced. So this guy seems to be a pretty big Republican figure in the United States, and they got that big fight going on in Florida for legalization that's going to be on the ballot. So we're always going to keep tabs on our friend Ron DeSantis. So it looks like Governor DeSantis doubles down on his opposition campaign against legalization that will appear on the November ballot. A fresh poll out of Florida, though, shows that legalization measure passing by a comfortable margin. But DeSantis caught flack from cannabis advocates and industry stakeholders on Thursday. Oh, God, here he's going to be quoting Cannabis, so this is going to be pretty dramatic, I'm sure. He called the proposed reform that Floridians will get a chance to decide on bad policy and even worse constitutional law. He also accused the major cannabis Trulieve of financially supporting the legalization campaign so that it gets a constitutionally protected monopoly on the market, arguing that Amendment 3 was written by the company's CEO, Kim Rivers. This comes a week after top DeSantis staffer and Rivers feuded over the state legalization initiative, drawing attention to the anti-cannabis governor's position on home cultivation, which would not be legalized under the reform measure. Looks like overall polling, both nationally and at the state level, raised questions about the political thinking behind the governor's ongoing vocal opposition to reform. While not all surveys have shown the measure reaching the steep 60% needed to enact a constitutional amendment at the ballot, it has constantly proved popular among a majority of Floridians. Looks like the last survey from James Madison was released shows 64% of likely voters in favor. And there is bipartisan support for the Florida cannabis measure in the poll, with 74% of Democrats, 61% of independents, and 54% of Republicans on board. So we'll have to keep an eye on DeSantis and his ways and how he's trying to be him. We got Danny in the house running for president. What's up, buddy? He's running a little late. He had a big campaign today, making big things happen out there on the trails. Maybe he got hit in the head as a child. With a pot leaf, apparently, because he is just anti-pot. Now, he's getting paid by the same people Wisconsin Republicans are getting paid for. We're going to figure it out one day. That's just a thing. Going to figure it out one day. It is ridiculous. It's not fair. It is unjust to the people you represent. I digress. All right. And then good news, some good news. We're going to end on some good news. We talked not too long ago about California with their bill to allow sales at state-run farmers market. That and legalizing cannabis cafes now goes to the governor's desk. So that thing is getting momentum, and it looks like they added to it. They didn't touch on it on the first article we read a few weeks ago. Again, Cali does some crazy stuff out there across the board. They like to try a lot of things that work, a lot of things that end up not working, a lot of things that sound crazy but then end up being cool, a lot of things that are crazy and then still end up sounding crazy. Cali's out there as far as what they're willing to try. I feel like this could be huge for, again, if they can do it right, take the time, not rush to it. This should be everywhere, in my opinion, and let them figure it out. So when we're writing our bill, we can just bloop, bloop, drop, bring it in. Obviously, that's wishful thinking, but better somebody else start when we look at Wisconsin, like letting 40 other states legalize before we say, okay, this is safe. We can figure this out. No, we got to be the last one so that, in case this isn't safe or we're missing something. Yes, hit that like. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Hit that like. Appreciate that, Sassy Paints. Sassy's always being sassy. California lawmakers have given final passage to bills that would allow small cannabis growers to sell their products directly to consumers at state-organized farmers markets and legalized cannabis cafes in the state. On Wednesday, the Assembly signed off on the recent amendments to the proposals that had cleared the Senate a day earlier, sending them to the desk of Governor Gavin Newsom. The cannabis farmers markets measure from Assembly member Gail Pellerin was approved in a final vote of 69-2. That is impressive, folks. Even if it's Cali, when we're talking cannabis, we're used to hangups on every which way we look because everything's got to take forever because that's just how it is. There's still that reefer madness out there. So 69-2, that is awesome. Members also approved the Cannabis Cafe proposal from Assembly member Matt Haney in a 63-5 vote. Pretty impressive. The former bill would also allow on-site cannabis consumption at approved events. If enacted, however, the law would not mean that small cultivators could freely market their products alongside other traditional vendors selling fruits and vegetables, for example, unless there was a local and state regulatory approval to sell at a specialized area. All things considered, that's not a terrible thing. That way people can't say, I didn't know it was cannabis, I guess. I mean, I would think you could have a banana stand, a cannabis stand, and then an apple stand. But hey, if we want to just play it super safe, because we're talking this control, this substance that is so crazy, if we got to have a specialized area, I think that is okay. Have a couple extra set of eyes, that kind of thing. I don't think that's terrible take at all. Under the proposal, the Department of Cannabis Control would be authorized to issue a state temporary event license to a licensee authorizing on-site cannabis sales to and consumption by persons 21 years of age or older at certain venues expressly approved by a local jurisdiction as specified. That seems pretty reasonable to me. Local jurisdictions would need to consent to allowing the events in order for a license to be granted. Fair. As a farmer's daughter, knowing the importance of having that direct relationship with the consumer, yes, this guy gets it. This allows cannabis farmers to be able to sell at authorized events cannabis directly to the sellers, bringing the stock right to the person. That's awesome. Again, Wisconsin, full of farmers markets. Please let this be a thing one day. This is beautiful, in my opinion. This is awesome. Kudos to Cali. Applicants wishing to obtain the state temporary events license would also need to meet the definition of a small producer. That means they could not be cultivating more than 1 acre of cannabis, 22,000 square feet under a mixed light tier 1 cultivation license, or 5,000 square feet under a mixed light tier 2 or indoor cultivation license. I like that. I like you're protecting the small farmer, because again, I think especially in Wisconsin, that is something we need to do. Let the farmer that has, we are farmers. Wisconsin is farmers. At heart, we are farmers. There's farmers. I'm not a farmer, but Wisconsin's farmers. Farmland everywhere. Farmers everywhere. Take care of the little guys. Protect the little guys. We don't need a big old shop down there just increasing their sales. No, this should be for that small grow, the craft sale, like your IPAs or that kind of stuff with beer, right? Like your little brewers. That's what we want at a farmer's market. So that is really cool to hear that it is for small farmers. I don't know that we touched on that last time we touched on this story as it was developing. So this would expand upon a California law that was enacted in 2018, allowing regulators to issue temporary cannabis event licenses in jurisdictions where the local government permits it. It was that policy that changed to allow cannabis sales and on-site consumption at the California State Fair. One thing I will say about California is, now granted, again, we represent all people, all voters of all parties, and we do not discriminate against anybody because of who they vote for, nor do I think you as listeners should, or just you as normal good people. I don't think good people care who someone else votes for, because that's their decision. We're all raised different. And I think we all think we're making the right decision. We don't have to change people's minds. Even though the media likes to make us think, if you don't vote the same way as me, that you are crazy. I can't believe you'd ever let that happen. Right? Now, granted, California, I'm guessing, leans more one way than Wisconsin being like a purple state. The good thing about having some get along, though, is how many times do we talk about something that just comes into, like, this was presented to the California Assembly, and then a couple of weeks later, it gets passed into law. I feel like in Wisconsin, we're talking years. Things just get drug out. I can't remember last time something just moved along, right? It's always, well, the Republicans control that, the Democrats, the governor tried to do that. This guy, like, nothing moves quick around here unless you're building a quick trip. If you're building a quick trip, they got to be bipartisan. They get things done. They get it done. They must be on both sides of the fence. Republican, Democrat, what do you need? We need our permit here. We need our lumber from there. We don't care who this, there. Boom, they build a quick trip. But anything else in this state, well, we voted yes 20 months ago. Then we found in the paperwork there's a discrepancy, and if you look back in the paperwork from 1944, looks like somebody was at the actual. They said they were in Fond du Lac when they filed this paperwork, but they're actually in Manitowoc County. And if you look at Manitowoc County, this ain't legal. We got to start over. We can't be passing this law. Wow, that was terribly. I don't know what that was, but that's how I feel like laws around here work, because if it ain't building a quick trip or Packers, they do some city, like, we got to vote if we're going to do this, if we can expand because it's city owned or whatever. But they're paying somebody too, because that stuff moves through. That stuff gets approved. But anything else, we were just talking about this, and they had to go through a couple different things, and same thing with the state fair amendment they wanted to add. Boom, couple weeks later, boom, it's done. Like, work together. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but Peter says you're letting the government take your rights away by not voting. That's fair. I can see where you're saying that. I don't care. All politicians lie. All politicians, I would say, do lie. Heather says that was great. Oh man, I'm gonna have to watch that clip later. But yeah, shout out to Callie for. I would think their governor is gonna sign this. I guess I don't know him personally, so I can't say that for certain. But seeing those numbers on how the votes went through, let's go, Callie. Get this thing rolling. And then pass the paperwork to Wisconsin. Give them some money, the Republicans, whatever. Tell them you're bringing in the weed. We don't care. We'll work with you, Callie. Bring the weed here at this point, right? We need some funding, I guess, because otherwise Republicans in the state apparently aren't changing their mind at this time. They're just going to keep blaming it on Voss. So if voting made a difference, you wouldn't be allowed to do it. There you go, Dennis. There you go. That's the way to look at it, I guess, or one way to look at it. I'll roll. Heather's rolling. She says, bring the flower. She's going to roll. But that's all we got for this week, folks. Next week, we're going to be coming to you on Wednesday evening as we get closer to the baby coming around. Man, it is getting pretty real. Like, oh, man. I swear I wake up and sometimes it's like, oh, I got to check out. Oh, she's not here yet, but she's coming real quick. That countdown to board, we're down to 17 days. Whew. It feels real. It's feeling real. I'm saying my prayers. Helping Mama. Mama's got to relax. She's getting everything situated as best as she can. Looking forward to it. So, hopefully everybody what do we got here? I don't know. We already sell THCA at farmers markets and county fairs all over the state. See you at HempFest. Looking forward to meeting you there, man. And again, I love the THCA thing for the people who are doing it right. It's just, unfortunately, the moment they start enforcing it, it's going to be obviously a bit of an issue. But in the meantime, we will definitely take it and try to support those who are doing it the right way. Everyone have a great weekend. Yes, Heather's on top of it. Jill's out of here. Everybody, Bob Beans, we're out of here, folks. We'll catch you next week, Wednesday, when we have the next episode of the podcast. All right, guys. Bob Beans, we're out.